Well-being is and always will be a transcendent state of interconnectedness with the entire ecology. And as such, it is bigger than the human mind can conceive. So a good analogy as we look at a number of different ways to refract well-being and move in that direction is the circle. The circle is an infinite number of dots, an infinite number of lines or planes, particularly as you move into the sphere. And well-being lies in the grace, in the interconnectedness of the part, the individual, and the larger ecology of which it is a part. So what I'm going to run through at this point is a variety of different distinctions with which to triangulate and measure that indescribable sphere and seek to find a relationship of grace, of well-being, of growth and evolution. The first metric or kind of set of guidelines to move on that path is brain development. So at the base, we have the 200 million year old crocodile or reptilian brain, and this moves towards the limbic or instinctive brain, moves towards the rational brain, and the reptilian brain is the fight, flight, freeze, sociopathic and reptilian brain to keep us alive in a sociopathic and reptilian environment. We start to move towards consciousness. We start to develop the analytic or pattern organizing brain of the intellect. And initially, it can just lead to being a smarter and more intelligent reptile, a more dangerous sociopath in social terms. But as we move into the empathic brain through mirror neurons, as we start to define the human being, the part with the heart that empathizes and cares with other people, an entirely new field of mathematics opens up. Because when you have empathy, as opposed to fight, flight, and freeze with reptilian drives, you have the capacity for trust. When you have empathy, you have the capacity for gratitude. When you have empathy and trust, it leads naturally into collaboration, where the human species has the possibility, either in small groups, if the empathy is limited to the small group definition, or in larger and larger groups if the empathy is species-wide. You have the possibility, built on top of the rational brain, of intelligent, win-win, trust-based collaboration. And trust is incredibly important to the human species, and it emerges when enough of the outer environment is trustworthy. Meaning if you are being constantly betrayed and traumatized by the people around you, you will stay locked in the reptilian fight, flight, freeze brain, and there will be no trust. There will be no empathy, just fear. However, the degree of grace or well-being or efficiency that is possible on interactions based on trust is exponentially larger, because you can reduce your defense budget as an individual, as a family, as a nation, as a species. you have to put less of your energy into watching out for every other person on the planet to stab you on the back as soon as it's expedient to do so. But that only opens up or releases in the domain of empathy. Now, the last region of the brain is something that we've explored very little. We get little hints of it in transcendent religious moments. We get hints of it on DMT and other psychoactive compounds that, in a sense, break the locks that normal evolution would hold on to the transcendent brain. Because in the transcendent brain, one begins to function not so much on just the limited self of the ego, but one begins to feel one's connectedness to the planet and to every other living being. And it's locked in place in the same way that the empathic brain is locked in place by the reptilian brain. It's locked in place until enough of the environment demonstrates the behavior that suggests that collectively we're behaving as one. Now, in the transcendent brain, your pain is my pain because we're one. In the transcendent brain, the Earth's pain, the larger ecology that gives birth to all species, is a part of us and we're a part of it. And the benefits in efficiencies and high states of emotion, joy, ecstasy, wonder are enormous. So you get incredible mileage on energy when you enter the transcendent brain. But it's limited by the lowest common denominator, which is illustrated by the 100 monks chanting transcendently in a temple. One of the 100 monks gets out a pistol, shoots the Buddha, commands attention, and the state collapses, meaning we're immediately back in the reptilian brain 200 million years ago, because one person was not attended to. That brain, the brain of the person with the pistol, is in a reptilian, limbic, rational state, whereas the other 99 may be in an empathic, rational, and transcendent state, moving out beyond the body with chant, with song, with group ritual, into a fabric of consciousness in which we are one. We're a part of the sphere, the larger ecology. But it's the most efficient and the most delicate. The species doesn't get to enter the transcendent brain as long as it neglects 1% of its people, who in the neglect, in being inconsidered, because the person with the pistol is not enjoying themselves as much as the other 99 monks chanting. The person with the pistol has a certain fear, a certain desperation, a certain need that is so great that they will descend into the reptilian brain to address the grievance, to address the fear and the pain that is not being voluntarily addressed by the group. Maybe he has a grandmother that needs medical attention, and he's asked the abbot, the monks, he's asked the government, asked the hospital, please take care of my grandmother. She needs help. And despite there, as there is in this world, being plenty of money, plenty of resources to attend to her, to his or her grandmother, everyone says no, which communicates, I'm not part of the circle. My pain, my grandmother's pain, is not being considered in the same way your need for a Rolls Royce is, in the same way that your need to go out gambling is. So there's a dissonance in the field, and it collapses easily. As you climb through the states of brain development, the higher states are more fragile, meaning they require more cooperation, more attunement, more skill by more people. But they're also highly intelligent in the sense that as a species, the survival rate, as a planet, the survival rate is mathematically much higher when everyone involved is engaging with their decision-making and daily life from the transcendent brain. So it's a long way away before our species has the emotional literacy, the trauma literacy, the relational literacy, the psychological literacy to create an environment of empathy that is strong enough for everyone to enter a transcendent state. And this is where the framework of microclimates comes in, where for a certain period of time, as a way of propelling vision, whether it's through the jailbreak of a psychoactive compound, which shuts off the reptilian brain so that it can't interfere with the transcendent brain in the way it normally would if the body has a long history of trauma and abuse. If the body is carrying a long history of trauma and abuse in even one person, their body is saying it's not safe to function as one. Because when you're amongst reptiles, the reptilian brain preys on the weakest. The crocodile attacks the 5-year-old boy, not the 6-year-old man, if they've got a choice. Might is right in the reptilian arena. In the rational brain, you have a negotiation of norms, but it's still not coming from empathy. In the empathic brain, one empathizes with the fragility of the child and puts the burden to the bigger person, challenges the bigger person, meaning in a more humane and chivalrous nature of warfare. The invading army does not slaughter the women and children. The confrontation is directed, and this is from the rational and some empathy, a sense of moral, we're not going to prey on the weak. And this is also beneficial for the species in the same way that native tribes people in the hunt are selective. They don't just say, there's a pregnant mother, she can't run as quickly, let's hunt her. Because in an ecological framework, there's a balance that needs to be maintained, and we're all part of the balance. And if we kill off the next generation, we're actually shooting ourselves in the foot. But a short, focused, expedient sociopath will kill the mother first because it's an easier prey. And so the movement towards well-being as an individual, as a family, as a small group, as a community, is to systematically, through first the rational brain, then the empathic brain, and then the transcendent brain, move in the direction, inside and out, brain and context and environment, so it's sustainable. Because you can jailbreak the transcendent brain and it is absolutely ecstatic. But if you've got one reptile in the group that pickpockets everyone when they're in a transcendent and ecstatic state, and then the drug wears off, the ceremony is over, and their car is stolen, then it collapses the intelligence of entering that state regularly and sustainably.